My name is Barry Clark and I'm the President of BI Consulting. We're at that time of year where we're thinking about setting objectives or having objectives set for the upcoming year. So how can we use project management techniques to help exceed these objectives? We've all heard of SMART objectives, and that is that our objectives should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time constrained. We're often told this about our objectives, but how can we leverage techniques to ensure that we get a better chance of not just meeting these objectives, but exceeding them? The first step, I believe, is we should treat every year as a project. The reason for this is you have every condition within your objectives for them to be considered overall a projective. It's a finite piece of work, it has a defined start and end date, it's made up of deliverables, if you like, and it requires oversight and management. So now we're on the path of the project. What do we need in place to be successful? First, you need a clearer understanding of what the objectives are. This is really important. Then we can conduct a feasibility study, if you like, into whether or not that these objectives meet the SMART criteria and whether or not we're also happy with those. We can then talk to our line manager or our director or whoever is setting these objectives with us, and we can seek agreement with them that we are both happy that we can move forward. Remember, objectives are a two-way street. You must be happy that you have a realistic chance of at least meeting the objective set. It's important you understand what you're signing up for. And then finally, try to keep it simple. It's extremely important to plan our objectives. If we fail to plan, we plan to fail. So the next step is to make sure that we document everything. Each objective could be described as a deliverable. Now, for your benefit, try to be tactical. If your objectives are aligned with your line manager's objectives and they have to meet their objectives to be successful, or your strategic organisation objectives, then you have got a much better chance of success. Because if you're successful and it contributes to your line manager or your business being successful, you've got a much better chance of getting support to meet these objectives. Understand, this is singly the most important factor. You need to understand specifically what your objective is, specifically what you need to do to meet that objective, and specifically what are the conditions for exceeding that objective too. Where possible, try to break your objectives down into individual tasks and activities, and try to estimate how much time is required to complete each one of these activities. And on your plan, aim to exceed each one of those objectives. The next part is to measure. So what we need to do is we need to plot now these activities or tasks into a schedule. Now that can be a calendar, it can be a spreadsheet, it can be on a notepad. But we have to track. We have to have a mechanism of tracking. Remember that most of us only have 220 working days on average a year. So your objectives must be achievable in that timeline. Set milestones against each one of those activities, i.e. when you're expecting to have these activities complete, and that will then mark as a milestone. Then we want to set monitoring points. Now preferably weekly. We should take an hour a week. We should be looking at our objectives and make sure we have a slot booked in our calendar or in our diary to track these activities and to track our progress with these activities. This is really, really important if you want to be successful. Set a monthly meeting with your line manager so you are able to track your progress and get agreement from them that you are tracking correctly or you're on track to meet your objectives. And finally, set reminders for yourself. So if something is coming up that you're supposed to do, if something is coming up that you're supposed to attend, and this lines up with your objectives, make sure you have reminders in your diary, on your phone, on your PC or wherever it is. Even a post-it note on your screen will do, to make sure that you're on top of things. Now we look at feasibility. So now we've captured everything, we've documented everything. We have all the information we need to work on whether or not our objectives are meeting those conditions of being smart. So are they specific? Now we've broken these objectives down into smaller chunks, tasks or activities, it's easy for us to see what we need to do. From a measurable perspective, now we have a clear definition of what it is to meet or exceed, and we have the timelines with milestones. We're able to see what it is that we need to do in the time frame. We've got actually something that we can measure against, and we can track progress. Achievable. Now we've documented our deliverables and we have this activities in a plan, we can assess whether or not the timelines are achievable. Realistic. Now we have all of activities planned out, we can contrast these activities, these new activities if you like, with our workload, our operational workload. We can see the amount of effort needed and the time we have available, and we can agree on whether or not that these objectives are realistic. And finally, time constrained. Now we have everything planned out in a schedule, we can understand what our timeline looks like and ensure that we can complete our objectives before our annual reviews. Once you've got to this point, now you're ready to discuss your objectives with your line manager. It's important that they give you the appropriate time for you to assess your objectives and commit to them. So you must have been able to have had the opportunity to write these things down and conduct this feasibility study before you're asked to agree to your objectives. Now we've had this agreement with our line manager, it's down to you. We've set the targets, you have a plan, now you need to create the discipline to follow it through. It's important that you also look at this and identify any potential blockers or hazards on the way that could potentially impact your plan or your schedule. You need to understand what you need to do also to eliminate those potential blockers or hazards, and if it involves extra work you should add it to your plan and just make sure you've got enough room to adjust in your plan to take on that additional effort. Make sure you stick to your monitoring schedule. This is really key. Tracking your progress and plotting it to make sure you're on or ahead of target will help to keep you motivated. It'll also help you see if you're slipping behind. So the frequency is important. You need to keep on top of things and make sure that you are on track. Check in regularly with your manager. Make sure that you're in agreement that your progress is tracking properly, that you're on target to meet or exceed your objectives. There's really no excuse for this. This is a contract between the two of you, and it's really in your best interest to make sure that you and your line manager are aligned. Communication here is key. Look at any opportunities for low-hanging fruit. Sometimes there are training or personal development objectives that have been set, that may have been set out into future. There may be an opportunity to bring some things forward. Providing it doesn't impact anything else in your plan, then you should take advantage of that and maybe get things done a little bit earlier if you can. Remember that monitoring your progress is very important. If you are to stay on track to exceed your objectives, you must have the discipline to know exactly how much progress you are making. So now we got to the end of the year and we've met our objectives or even exceeded our objectives. We've got everything documented. We've got our plan, all of our activities that we've done. We can now meet with our line manager for our annual review. You can look at your plan, you can look at your activities and objectives and what you've done to complete or at least meet all of these objectives you've been working on for the year. You can even document this if you like to clearly articulate what your objectives were, what activities you completed to meet these objectives, and even clearly explain what you've done to exceed. If you want to be successful, this approach will give you a clear advantage when it comes to setting, meeting or exceeding objectives. In addition, it does give you an introduction to the world of project management. No matter what your role is within an organisation, to be able to plan, estimate, monitor, track and communicate are all really good skills to have. So thank you for listening today. I hope you found the information in the presentation helpful. If you found this topic interesting or would like more information, or if you would like more information on BI consulting and our services, please visit our website, biconsult.ca.